Best of R / Tales from Retail episode 113. Subscribe for Reddit videos daily. In my early 20s I worked at a single coverage gas station. Most of my shifts were at night, and while being the only employee in the shop during my shift, and also being a dainty girl, I would often fantasize about what I would do if someone were to rob the store. I don't know why, but this was something I would think about almost every shift. Anyway, the gas pumps were in clear view from the register. So one night this kid parks at the pump and browses the shop. When he finally approaches the register, he does so with his hand in his jacket pocket and walks very slowly while looking around in a paranoid manner. So naturally I'm thinking, this is it, it's happening. When he finally meets my gaze, he can tell from the expression on my face what I was thinking, and he laughs. "No, it's not what you think," he says, and he pulls out a pack of condoms from his pocket and slides them across the counter discreetly. I didn't want my girlfriend to see. His girlfriend was pumping gas. Thinking back on it, I still don't understand why he didn't want his girlfriend to know he was purchasing condoms. Incidentally, I ended up getting robbed at gunpoint a couple months later. Thank you. Next. So this incident happened maybe 4 years ago roughly. This customer had quite the attitude. He used to run his own business, and if other business he was buying from wasn't up to his standards, he'd think it was poor service. This customer phoned me one day wondering on getting a part for his BBQ. So I contact the company who made the BBQ, get pricing, and tell him how much it would cost. He says, "Okay, let me think it over. I'll let you know if I want to order it." He ends the call, and I write down in my notes about everything that happened. So maybe 2 weeks later, the phone rings, and my co-worker answers it. I hear him saying stuff like I'm not aware of any order, and asked who he was dealing with. He then looks to me and hands me the phone, saying who was on the phone and that he wants to talk to me. So I pick up the phone, and the customer goes off saying, "I talked to you about that part. I'm extremely pissed that you didn't follow through on my order." He was saying stuff like that, about how unhappy he was with my service, etc etc. I finally interrupt him and say, "Listen, the last time we spoke, you said you would let me know what you wanted to do. You didn't tell me to order it or anything. That was the last I heard from you." He sputters for a moment, going, "Oh, well, He is silent for a moment, and then in a much more meek voice, says, "How long will it take you to get it in?" I tell him how long, and he gives me the go-ahead to get it. That was the end of it. Ever since then, whenever he comes in, he doesn't give me any attitude. He has become much more bearable to deal with. Thank you. Next. At my old store in California, we limited the number of items customers could bring into the fitting rooms. This was an anti-theft measure, but we would hold the extra clothes nearby and help to exchange items. One busy Saturday, a woman approached with armloads of clothes. It was very obviously way over the 8-item limit that was heralded at the entrance to the fitting rooms, and was repeated verbally by yours truly, me. "I'm sorry, we have a limit of 8 items at a time. I'm happy to hold these for you and help you trade out as you go along." The woman gave me what looked like a calculated blank stare. I base this on the fact that I've seen my grandpa use the same tactic on solicitors. Woman, English. Number, French. Me, "Oh, you don't speak English, only French?" She smiled and nodded, but I thought I noticed a hint of triumph in her eyes. I smiled, reached for the phone that rang to the registers, and asked my co-worker, C, if she could come to the fitting rooms. Me, "Hey, C, you're minoring in French, right?" C, "Yes." Me, "Could you please help me and tell this lady?" Woman, only 8 items at a time? Okay, I will take these." She counted out 8 items and handed the others to me. C looked confused, but rolled her eyes after the woman was out of earshot, and I explained what happened. Workplaces are so diverse these days. It's a lot easier to be called out. Thank you. Next. That's a story that happened yesterday and today. Yesterday a customer comes in and wanted some mud guards for his MTB. I looked at his bike and suggest some that fits nearly all MTBs. He didn't want these. He wanted some like at a normal city/trekking bike. I had some there that maybe would fit, but I DK if they do. I said him this. He asked if it doesn't fit if he can bring it back. Yes, of course. So he bought it. Today he were back. It doesn't fit and we don't have and can't order what he wants. So he will get store credit. That's the point when he jets outrage. AC, I don't want store credit. I want my money back. Me, we only give out store credit or could change it for other items. AC, but you said I could bring it back. Me, yes, you can bring it back. You will get store credit or other items you need, as it's stated big on the register. Pointing to it, AC, but I did not pay it here but on the other register. Me, there is it also stated. AC, give me my money back or I go to my lawyer and you can shut down. Me, we also could change the return back. By law we are not required to accept any return, be it damaged goods, at least in my country. AC, your S, censored. I am right cause I have done this recently with store name that sells trips around the world. My lawyer says they must give me the money back so you must do it too. Then my boss came and took over it. The end he got partly his money back. Between that he took off his mask and ripped it apart. ATM it's against the law to get into stores without mask. He refused to get out of the store or get the mask on again. He was lucky that there was no police around. Thank you. Next. Older lady comes to the register with 30 jars of pickled onions. Lady, all of these are out of date. Me, confused because those just came in. I'm sorry, lady, these are all out of date. I checked them all and look, they're 6 months out of date. What kind of shop are you running? Me, could you pass me one please? Lady, huffs and slams one down on the counter. I think it's despicable that the staff here aren't doing their job, just disgraceful. Me, having read the dates on the jar and immediately realizing what's happened. Oh I see, if you look just here the date you were looking at was the production date. The best before date is just below it. Lady, I know how to read a date. Me, it's very easy to misread the label on these but I assure you they're well within date. It's not easy to misread, very clearly says production on the first line and best before on the second. Lady, how could you be so rude? I'm going to call corporate and have you fired. She left in a huff and my boss, and the owner of the company, who had watched the whole thing burst out laughing. Thank you. Next. So this is another story from last year. I was a Christmas temporary for a big company where I live. This company likes to make monthly donation to charities and events. Aussie wildfires, children education etc. I believe this one was for helping kids somewhere. I can't really remember, sorry. It's important to know that the checkout aisles are designed to let two cashiers perform transactions at once, with the cashier's backs facing the other cashier's line, if that makes sense. So a customer can go down the wrong lane and be behind me. This lady comes though my checkout. She is around 80. Looks like a lady you would see in those cardio groups. Now today we are slightly busy so there is always someone to serve. The transaction goes well, until I ask if she would like to leave a donation. She looks at me and asks me to repeat myself. Would you like to leave a donation? No, she shrieks. She tells me that she never leaves a donation. And I give her the items that she purchased thinking that was the end of it. Big nope. She comes around the back of my counter and starts to tell me in an angry tone about how her son went to country island or country that I had never heard of and how over there they stole the donations for themselves. All the while I am nodding politely and serving other customers, without asking them about the donation, who are also looking extremely uncomfortable because of her standing behind me. Tip for everyone. Cashiers will accept you saying no thanks without having to give a life story or explanation. Thank you. Next. I work in a children's stationery shop, and a few weeks ago I had an older woman come in with her assumed grandson. She asked me if we sold game cards, to which I double blinked, not really knowing what she meant and said no. She then asked me where the shop was that sold game cards. At this point, it's worth noting that I work in the mall that is furthest from my house in my city, so I never shop there as I have a bigger, nicer mall closer to where I live. I get regularly asked by random customers where is XXXXX shop, and I always have to say I don't know, sorry, I only work in here, direct them to the mall customer service desk or explain gently that I don't actually know about the entire mall, just my store. As an aside, so many people seem shocked or annoyed that I don't have the entire layout of the mall memorized. I've only been at this mall a couple of months and I don't shop. I walk from my car to my store and straight back out. Rant aside, I asked her what she meant. She said, "I got told there was a shop down here that sold game cards." I replied, "Oh, do you mean the video game shop? Because it was right next door to us and that was what I assumed she meant, and she just didn't know the right terms." She almost scoffed and said, "No, I'm looking for cards that are games." Righty, well now you're being rude and I still don't know what you mean, so I apologized and said I didn't know what that was. She left the store. Half an hour she came back in just to say, "The store is right next door," in a condescending tone, as if she felt the need to prove I was incompetent after all.